Item 10E is presentation, discussion, and consideration of possible direction to city staff for future citizen engagement opportunities and timeline regarding the use of paving the way sales tax funds for street repairs and improvements. And do we have a staff presentation on this?
We do, yes. So as Casey is taking the podium, what we want to do is get some input on post the successful election for Proposition 1 and 2, get some council input and direction on a plan to go engage the public. As I know you know, everything the city publicized and pushed out regarding Proposition 2 in particular said that the city would go through an extended and public engagement effort, and Casey's going to make a presentation about how we'd propose to do that. I'd like to get some feedback from you and then talk about next steps.
Thank you, AJ. Casey Moore, Director of Management Services. So we'll jump right in. Is this on? Hey, there we go. All right, sorry about that. So as a background, as AJ mentioned, when we had the election last fall, we did talk about getting additional citizen feedback and input. So we had the Proposition 1, Proposition 2, and really what we're talking about here tonight is Proposition 2. As a reminder, we do not start collecting these dollars until April 1st of 27, so of next calendar year. So during this time, and we talked a little bit about that during the election because the election needed to happen quickly. And so then we said, hey, we'll work to get citizen feedback afterwards. We want to make sure that we have that input. And so that's where we are at this point, wanting to throw something out and have a discussion and see where we go from there. So again, we're going to talk mainly about Proposition 2. And then here in a few minutes, I'll invite Steve Lawrence up when we talk about some of the data and those sorts of things, and he can speak to those items. So when we're talking about this, this is a specific language when we put that information out, and it said, obviously, these decisions about which projects we're going to do would be made ultimately through several steps, ending with City Council. But those recommendations would be determined by using different things. And the first thing on there, citizen feedback received through outreach activities, including surveys, public meetings, et cetera. So what we'd like to do is we have done previously some feedback on traffic, where we've received traffic feedback from folks. It's an online tool that we have that we work with our GIS department on. We've refined it as time has gone on. And so essentially people have an opportunity to go onto a map, drop 3 pins. We give them 3 spots because we know people may have more than one spot. That's a little bit of a headache for them. And so we give them an opportunity to drop 3 spots on a map, and then ultimately all that data is aggregated by our GIS folks, and then we get a hotspot map, and those things are ranked out. And so one thing that we want to do, it's a little bit different. So typically we've just sent out the release, we've made this tool live for a certain amount of time. We want to do that, but what we want to do this time is actually set up shop in some public locations. To try to encourage people. We'll have an opportunity for the people to, if they have their own devices, where they can just scan and go straight to that survey. But if they don't have the ability to do that, we'll have that technology on site for them to do that as well. And we really find this is the best way to keep all the data in one place. We try to get open-ended data the very first time we did this, and it literally took us weeks, maybe months to parse through all of that. So everything that we do, we want to try to get into one tool so that we can turn that around fairly quickly and start to use that data and that information, that feedback. So some things that we want to do, potentially set up a day or two at the library. We know a ton of people visit our Edmond Public Library downtown, and a wide range of folks as well. And so spending time there, getting on campus at UCO. We know that we have a lot of college students that definitely drive on our streets here in the community and maybe aren't as plugged into the things that we send out. So we'd like to be there and set up and have some outreach with those folks. Look at potentially a larger event like Herd on Herd, and then youth baseball and softball. So places where there's already a captive audience of Edmond folks that are there, where we can directly reach them, talk to them about what we have going on, and then if obviously anyone needs tools, we would have those available for them to fill out the survey as well. So moving ahead, when we get to the end, I think I mentioned we'd sent out a release, identify those 3 traffic hotspots. In 2022, the last time we did this, we had 5,400 valid responses. When we say valid responses, sometimes things go a little awry. Maybe somebody filled out the survey more times than they should have. We can see those things so that we can account for those. Or sometimes things land outside of our city limits. So, and then essentially on the back end, our folks go through, aggregate that data, and then at the end of all that, we can put out something that's easy for people to understand. And so you can see from 2022, there was our top 10 list. A lot of those have been addressed or in the process of being addressed. And that is one thing that we've found typically. This citizens' feedback it does a couple of things. One, it tends to follow the data that we tend to know already. We have a pretty good feeling of where these hotspots are, but that doesn't mean that we know everything. But what we have seen traditionally is this feedback does follow that. But there are some things that we've seen where some new areas pop up that maybe weren't on the radar before, or up and coming areas of concern. And so that's been really valuable data for our people planning as well. So we want all that information. We want to be able to take all that in and then ultimately take that. I think the key, and when Steve comes up for you all to figure out is, sorry about that, is how do you weigh this compared to the hard numbers as well? And I think that's a conversation for you all to have. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments before I hand it over to Steve, if you're comfortable with this and what we're trying to do here. And this would be during the month of March. And then after that, if we still needed more feedback, more information, we can certainly talk about that. But we'd like to kick things off with this for sure.
Well, I think it'd be a great time to have a special workshop, have citizens come in and offer their opinions about this rather than trying to figure out how to do it on an iPhone or something. Just come in here and talk to us about it. So, I mean, at Heard on Heard, they're trying to have a nice time. They probably don't want to talk about streets. So I would suggest that we have a meeting about that where citizens can come talk to us about it directly. Or more of the Edmond Matters meeting, put those together.
I'd like a lot's in here, and to me, it's just timing of how we work through that. I think I would like to see us include the hotspots, the traffic struggle areas, and especially like the PCI and the pavement assessment out so that people can review that before they start making choices. I mean, you just throw it open. I know Councilman Moore is going to want it at his house, and I'm going to want it at my house. I mean, there has to be something.
All right, we'll do it at your house.
There has to be something that we help them understand where it's most needed, and that be Edmond Public Works with road ratings, which are the worst. I think that should hopefully help influence those decisions.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think I didn't touch on that. And so really what this is talked about more has been traffic. It's probably leaned a little bit more towards congestion, where you feel stress about traffic conditions. And that's what Steve will come up and talk about, and you're talking about what I'd mentioned, how we marry all that together. This specifically has traditionally been more about your driving experience, not as much about conditions, but definitely how do we marry all that? That's a good question.
I don't know if I agree or disagree. I'd have to think about that further.
Certainly.
But I want this money to make sure we're going to where streets and roads need repair and need fixing.
Yes.
You know, I mean, through ITS, through whatever, let's control traffic. If we need to make adjustments, that's fantastic. But we're missing the boat here if we're not addressing where the roads need the repair the worst.
So maybe we should hear part 2 of the story here.
Yeah, if you want to do that before you guys have a further conversation, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me go ahead and I'll do this and invite Mr. Lawrence up.
Steve Lawrence, Director of Engineering. So another good reason for us to do the public input at the very beginning of this program is really for staffing issues with engineering as well. Of the 3 people that will be working on this program, 2 of those positions are vacant. We had a retirement at the end of the year, and we had a position that was subject to the hiring freeze until this tax passed. November 18th, we put an advertisement out for those positions. We've got 1 qualified candidate that we're working with and hope to have another soon. So currently, the engineering staff that we do have and water resources, right now we're going through the process of updating our standard construction drawings and specifications and creating a land development and design criteria manual, which is very important. It's a massive undertaking. It's taking a lot of staff hours in addition to what we normally do. So hopefully within the next 3 or 4 months, we'll have that wrapped up and we'll be ready to kind of move them over and jump into the Paving the Way program. So the data that we're going to be looking for and what we think we'll get from the public outreach in the beginning is mainly, areas of concern for the citizens, whether it is traffic, whether it is issues with safety, or whatever it is that they don't like about it, very specific areas on a map. We hope to take that data and combine it with all the other data streams we have. We have excellent data on the pavement condition of every street. We've got a program that will sort through that. We'll have recommendations. Part of this will be to come up with the recommendations about what our target level is for each type of street. Arterial streets with a lot of volume, we want to have those in the best shape. So we have objective data for all the pavement conditions, and generally that matches up with what we've been hearing from the community on a routine basis. I know you guys get a lot of calls about pavement condition frequently, and so the data seems to match up with that. So we're pretty confident in that data to look at like pavement condition. So all the different data streams that we have for hot topic areas for citizens or for the pavement condition, it will all come together. We want to try to maximize the use of federal funding as well. We've been successful with that in the past. We want to make sure that we're getting as much as we can. We're getting the results right now. It looks like we're not going to get much this year, but that's because we've been so successful the last 2 years. But we want to make sure that our program incorporates as much federal dollars as we can to get the best value for the citizen. So that will be part of the data analysis that we do and putting it all together. We've got quite a bit. So we've got all the past feedback that we've gotten we used to do it every 2 years. We've got a lot of data for that. We've got the pavement condition index. We've got we get daily calls, from citizens. We have a lot of data, and I think we'll be able to get that put together in a pretty good format. And then really that's us getting that put together in its preliminary stages, and then getting that to the CIP advisory board, going through it with them, probably very extensively, finding out from them, priorities from them, and starting to kind of massage the data and the program. So hopefully June, August timeframe, we'll start going through the CIP advisory board with our recommendations and getting feedback from them. And so hopefully that's a 3-month process. It may take a little bit longer depending on how quickly we can staff up before this, as well as how much time the CIP advisory board wants to spend on it. But this is our preliminary schedule. This is kind of our early start, early finish schedule. May go a month after this if needed. So that's pretty much it. So what kind of questions do you have?
I've got several more comments. I'm not sure which they are. When we talk about citizen input, I think it's critical. I think some of the ideas that Casey presented are viable. I like what Councilman Moore said about using Edmond Matters as well as a way to get that input, which means we need someone there to listen. That kind of input is what goes to what CIP board should have in the top of their mind as they work on where we're going to spend the CIP dollars. And the data that your team provides is what should be helping us get to that decision. And as we talk about strategic planning, I don't think we need to be doing it the way we've always done it, where we just say, okay, here it is. CIP says this is what we're going to do. And then a year and a half, 2 years later, we have a new council and they go in and change the game plan. We need a road plan that's published, similar to what the state does with their 8-year road plan. I'm not saying it ought to be 8 years. That's, Mr. Lawrence, for you to decide what we really ought to be looking at. Because we know that state funding, federal funding changes that. But if we don't have a plan that we can show people and say, here it is, and when something moves, this is what does the rest of them, we're missing an opportunity to communicate effectively. So I like it. I like all of this. But ultimately, it's got to come to that plan that we've been discussing.
I know we have all this data. And this is probably redundant. Maybe I'll say it in a different way. I want that input, but I want us to first arm citizens with information by which they make that input. I think if you told me, what's your greatest desire in far as traffic moves? Well, I need to save 2 minutes when I drive down Bryant from Coffee Creek to 33rd Street. That's a swing and a miss. I mean, that's not made with any intelligent backup. And I want to be able to provide that to people before they come and begin providing input, or else nobody's going to be happy because their pet project didn't get done. And so we have to back up reasons why this project stood out over this one. It's because federal dollars were involved, pavement condition index proved that, on and on and on. That's all I just want to have all that out there for them to digest before they start entering into these kind of considerations.
Just to that real quick, we do have that on the website because we put that on the website for the Paving the Way, so we can take that information and push that out and promote that. So thank you.
Good.
I talked about this at strategic planning a little bit too, but I think the challenge here is to the weighted scoring of all of it, right? When we aggregate it all together into a single prioritized list that goes into that plan. So I think that is the challenge. I remember clicking on hotspots on the map one of those times, and it was 15th and Bryant and 2nd and Bryant. And so I was really glad when I saw those roads get redone eventually, those intersections. So I think there is some power in enabling input that way. I do like the idea of in-person engagements as well. And I think with like Midge Park Plan and other stuff, that's worked well. So I think the timeline here is good in terms of getting it together quick enough, but not too fast. I did want to let Phil Klutz is here, who's the chair of the CIP board. I wanted to let him come up and just offer his thoughts real quick from a CIP board perspective, if he can.
Thanks, Preston. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Phil Klutz, chair of the CIP board. I really like this plan. I think it gives time for citizens to give input, and it gives time to review the objective data that you talk about, and then the mix of how do we use that subjective and objective data to make good decisions and a plan that's the future. The last couple of months at CIP, we've talked about how do we have a more strategic plan for these things, and not just what projects come up and when do we do them, but we know what's important for the next several years, and let's keep that on the plan. And if funding is short, then everything bumps out. We don't hopscotch things. So I think that's important. The one thing about this plan that I do want to kind of hold firm to is that 3-month window for CIP to have. If we have a month to discuss it at CIP and then it needs to come to you, I don't know that that's enough time. We have a really robust board. We have some good discussions, and I think having time to review it, discuss it, and then have another meeting to review and discuss it before we formalize what we want to recommend to you as that body, I think would work really well to have that 3-month period. And then the last thing I'll say is just, I like the idea of a workshop. I think the more in-person discussions we can have, we have CIP the third Tuesday of every month, and that's open to citizens. So communicating that out to the public that they're welcome to come to CIP meeting and have input during that period as well, it would be great. And happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
Mr. Klutz, I'm sorry to ask you to come back up, but if you would.
He waited till you got to your
I was going to wait for you to sit down, but
I didn't fully get sit down. Thanks.
you think if you need more time to be thorough and go over it all, then I think you ought to take the time to do that. When you were saying if you felt like the CIP committee was rushed or too tight of a
I think
time.
3 months is adequate. I think if we tried to do it 1 or 2, it'd be rushed. And
Yeah.
who knows, when we see it, we may want more time. I don't know what's driving the September the date, but if we get to July and we feel like we need more time, I'd be happy to ask for that.
Perfect.
You did say you have a very robust board. That's a very polite way of describing.
I appreciate it.
Yes, it's become a very, I think, a very open and honest conversation you've been having over the last couple of months.
We're willing to ask the questions that need to be asked and have opinions about them. So I think it's been really good.
Well, take the time you need to do it. And I know you all are working hard and you're studying hard, so just thank you and take the time you need.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thanks.
If I may, just to close the loop on that September timeframe, that was as much me. We were trying to figure out a balance between a sufficient amount of time to go and engage residents, yet have it be evident and visible to the council that we're making progress and thinking about how we'll implement this. So we can certainly take longer if the council is comfortable with it, and just perhaps have the CIP advisory kind of drive that part of it.
Don't take longer, take the right amount of time.
Yes, sir.
Any other thoughts? Do we need to do anything with this other than, I think Mr. Krieger has got this one under control at this point?
Just wanted to make sure you were aware of what we were considering and adjust to whatever your needs are. So if you're generally okay with it, then we'll proceed, and we'll obviously keep you updated as we progress.